So who were we before we were kids? Let's revisit those.
We were world travelers chained down by cats.
Okay.
Yeah, that's who we were.
Oh.
What did you think I was saying?
Okay, just like to start that like topic off, I do want to say something. I was talking to my therapist just about like the idea came up that like who I used to be, like before I was pregnant, my pre-children person, like who I used to be. I was saying that now that I have a little bit more time, it's not like I'm rediscovering who I used to be, because I can actually never go back to being that person.
Yeah.
Because, well, like I just can't. Like kids are a 24/7 thing. It's not like your brain can be like, I don't have kids right now. Even when they go visit somebody else, like you're constantly like, they're on your mind 100%. Like they're always at the back of your mind, and you're always going to be like, I hope they're okay. I'm sure they're okay. You know what I mean? Like always, constantly, even now, like they're sleeping, but we're still like conscious of them. Like, are they okay? I hope they're sleeping good. Like it's something that's always going to be there. I can never be my pre-child person. Anymore. Now that I have a little bit more time and I can like do things that I want to do, like to relax, and I don't feel like I'm completely on survival mode where I just have to like shut off at the end of my shift, like completely mentally and physically shut off to regain a semblance of sanity. I'm in a better place now, but I'm not rediscovering who I used to be. I'm meeting myself for the first time. Who am I? Who am I as a person now that I have kids? What does my free time look like, and what's important to me? And I was actually, it's so crazy. Like before I had kids, and even like with Ollie, I was a big sci-fi fan. I loved it. I loved sci-fi. I love fantasy worlds. But sort of lately, it's just not as exciting to me anymore. And maybe that'll change. You know, who knows? But before, like for the entirety almost of my time of who I was before I had kids, I'd always loved like fantasy worlds, and I still do, but like,
I think that's kind of a cool example, because like when we talked about what topics we wanted to talk about and this came up, like I was kind of imagining, like when you're talking about like rediscovery, I was kind of imagining talking about who we used to be, but not necessarily like that we were different people now. But it's true, because, and that, like I feel like that's a cool example, because a lot of things you learn about yourself through children, and so you like grow because of them. But I feel like that's an example of something where it's like that was a change that just happened to you, not because you had kids, but like during this 2-year period, like while you've been in mom mode, like that just was a part of you that was like, like I don't need to be here anymore. But it's not necessarily because you had kids, but like it happened while you had kids. Does that make sense?
I mean, maybe.
And, okay, so like what about sci-fi? You used to like it versus not like it now, or like it's just like not something you're super into. What specifically about children caused that change for you?
I think it just like made different things seem more exciting. You know, like it just seemed like before maybe I really loved fantasy worlds and that because it seemed really exciting, but my life's already super exciting every day, and I just don't
I don't need more adventure.
Yeah, like life. I feel like I'm adventured out. And you know, like I'm not saying that it's a change that's going to last forever, but it's just like a change that isn't that important to me because of the things that go on in my daily life that are caused by children. Like when I was in survival mode, I couldn't have cared any less for like card games and board games. Like they're fun. Yeah, but like honestly, I don't want to think. Like I didn't want to think when I was in survival mode. I was just like, no. My brain is not going to make any more work.
Well, you didn't need any more stimulation.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, like now that I'm starting to get a little bit more free time, I'm enjoying video games more. I'm enjoying, you know, like the idea of playing a board game or a card game, you know, sounds fun. Like it sounds fun.
For me, I feel like I'm kind of finding that too. Like I just don't care about sci-fi things as much as I used to. But I also like, it's weird because I feel like maybe we're feeling that for different reasons. Because for me, I was thinking, well, I feel like that's happening because like there's only so many stereotypes and like plot lines that you can follow, and some shows and movies are like super clever and make it unique. But like I feel like as you grow up and you consume so much content, like you just kind of don't feel like it's new anymore. You know what I mean? And I feel like for me that also kind of happened like since we've been parents, but it's not something that happened because we were parents. It's just like the flow of time for me. Before, I would love to like rewatch the 100 or like the Shannahar Chronicles and like all those kind of things that are
Which we
like
never finished.
that would never happen for me before.
Or the Badlands. But that's what I'm saying. Like, the
Yeah.
shows are right there and I can choose to watch them, but I don't. I would rather watch, like, real life things. Like, those seem more exciting to me. And I'm not saying that I'm not ever going to like sci-fi again. I'm just, like, rediscovering who I am now. They're at a different level of priority. Whereas
Yeah.
before, my pre-child self would be like, I'm watching that one right now. Like, there's no reason. But now, my time is much more valuable.
True.
At the end of the night, I can't just binge all the episodes in one season willy-nilly and just go to bed whenever and wake up
Yeah.
tomorrow whenever. Like, no, I know that I will only probably be watching a show 2 hours max. Like, so what, 2 episodes? But if it's like another, depending on if they're 30 or hour-long episodes. And so I really have to think about what interests me in that moment, what I'm going to watch. And I almost never pick sci-fi fantasy anymore. Even though there's episodes of the Badlands that I haven't finished. There's episodes of the Shannahara Chronicles that I haven't finished.
Yeah, no, I do see what you're saying. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of pre-parenting, like value-wise, where your role changes and your priority changes because your time and schedule change. Like it's interesting because like I'm sure that there are parents out there who just like are somehow able to keep doing what they're doing. Like it works different for all of us, and that's why like this is all just our opinion and like our experience that may or may not resonate with you. Also, like, physically, maybe it's like the age we are and all of that too. But like before, I feel like we could just stay up. Like we stayed up for such trivial reasons, and now it's like, ooh, it's 11. If I stay up until 11:30, like what's worth that 30 minutes of time before? What's more worth sleep than that? Like I don't know if that makes
And this
any
is like a
sense.
little bit off topic, but sort of on the same topic, not necessarily pre-child, but like, or who we are now. But like, for example, like yesterday there was just a small miscommunication between Jesse and I. Like nothing, like when he made me the bottle for Kai that I supplement with him right before he goes to bed at night. He just made it for me, which was really nice of him. Great. And Kai was totally fine the rest of the night. But I had to make a new one. So I made him a new nighttime bottle that we usually make him, like in the nighttime, like the same kind of bottle that we usually
we usually put the
put
extra
oatmeal in
oat
his nighttime
flake
bottles.
stuff.
And so because he'd made me a nighttime bottle, like I thought, okay, well, this has oatmeal in it. I'll use the same exact things with oatmeal. And then when we were getting ready for bed, Kai started stirring and I was like, perfect, like it's fine, I have everything ready. So I sat down in the chair in our bedroom with him, and I breastfed him, and then I gave him the bottle because he still was hungry. Because sometimes he is, because sometimes I don't produce a lot of milk, and nothing was coming out of the bottle. And it was so frustrating. Now I had to leave the room. Jesse had to make me a whole new bottle, and he woke up, and because of that miscommunication, I was up for an hour after that because I had to take him out because I needed to get a bottle, and he was awake. He was awake and he was practicing all his new sounds, and he was so happy, like awake and giggling and smiling and absolutely refusing to go back down because it was time for play now because he slept. So it's time for play. So because of that small miscommunication, now I was up for an hour longer than I needed to be. You know what I mean? And it's like, it was like such a small thing, like, but you don't like think about how like even like,
What does it have to do with pre versus post parenting?
like how important, like that mistake, like if we like didn't have kids, like, or even if we had just had one, like it would have been not that big of a mistake. I would have just slept in with Ollie in the morning. Like I would have given him a nap and we would have slept more, but that's not possible because now there's 2 of them on completely different sleep schedules.
Yeah, that's definitely the hardest part about having 2 children. I feel like is their schedules are always just a little bit different. And it's enough to make the entire day different for both of them, like in their needs. And it's like a constant, like yeah, sleep just means more. And so does, I feel like physical energy. I don't know, I guess I always imagined, like I always see you, like you see parents in cinema, and then like obviously like when people are actually like out with their family and they're able to just like carry their kid everywhere and like throw them in the air constantly and like run for hours, and I'm like, who are these people and how do they find this energy for them? And like again, like I don't know their story. Maybe they're just stay-at-home parents and they have like a nanny and somebody that like does all their food and dishes and cleaning, and I don't, who knows, like maybe that's just where they spend their energy. But I feel like as someone whose mind is split between so many different things, like phone calls from people from this business and then content creation for this other business and then your and I thing and then parenting and running errands and groceries and like, you know, and like meetings and all of that stuff, I have to manage and say, okay, like how much happiness can I produce for this child right now? Like be otherwise, like thinking about everything else I still have to do that day, like I might get to the end of the day and the next day and like my forearms will have like kind of like tendonitis symptoms, or like in like my elbow or my shoulders, and it's like, well then I can't do anything the next day for work or the house or for them, you know what I mean? And so it's like if I just go like hard for like 3 hours with Ollie, throwing him around and like running around, how will I have energy for the dishes and like to wake up early the next day to like be there and meet him at his energy level when he wakes up in the morning?
He wakes up in the morning and he's like, I'm ready. I'm ready to do everything.
I know.
Everything. Like,
Yeah, it's a lot.
and maybe like most people don't have a kid like Ollie. I was a kid
Well,
like
yeah,
Ollie.
yeah. And
It's in his blood.
I don't know.
It's
We
just in
know
his blood.
we know a few parent couples, like 4 or 5. I mean, some of them are like Ollie in a lot of ways, and like Ollie's like them in a lot of ways. Like kids have a lot of similarities. We've never had like a play date with a kid,
That can match Ollie's energy.
or that like when we like get to talking, it's maybe the same energy, but then when they actually go to sleep is when they wake up in the morning, in terms of like it's like a 12-hour cycle. But like if you put Ollie to bed at 5 or 7 or midnight, he will wake up at 5. And like if you try, like let's say you try to do like midnight, like he won't wake up any later. And like 5,
Well,
like
maybe. I mean, like, there's like
sometimes.
flukes that happen.
Yeah,
Like on Friday, we had some people over, and
but that was also because he wiped himself out. Like
I mean, he did. That was
yeah,
the only reason. He
yeah.
went to sleep at 7, and or like closer to 8, and he got up at 7. And we thought,
Yeah.
let's keep the schedule. Like, let's do it. Let's get him to okay. He woke up at 7. Let's get him to bed at 7. Do you know what time he woke up the next day? 5.
Yeah.
5.
So then like how late, like how many days can you go of like sleep depriving your child? Like let's just keep him up late again so that maybe he wakes up a little bit later, but then it's like 2 days of sleep deprivation.
Instead
And
of
then
1.
that's it, just like it's a downward spiral from there.
Yeah, because then after that, like also they'll have trouble sleeping at night.
Yeah. I'd say that's a good summation of like like probably for most people, pre-parenting versus post, before you're a parent and like after becoming a parent, is every choice you make has a bigger ripple effect. Like if you choose to stay up too late that one day, it's not just a recovery day the next day and then like you're back on track. It's like you have to ease like yourself back out of that sleep deprivation over like a week, and if anything else happens during that week that throws another thing off schedule, like then it's like a longer recovery period from that like bender of like an all-nighter. I don't know, maybe for younger parents it's easier too. Like I mean, now we're like super old. If you have a kid right out of high school, I was still staying up really late and not
I
experiencing
mean, we were staying up really late, even when we just had Ollie.
Yeah,
But
that's
like,
true. But that still cost us a lot when we chose to do that.
Yeah.
But now, like with their schedules always being like somewhat off sync, and it's like a schedule on a schedule on a schedule on a schedule, because it's like yours, mine, and theirs. Like
Yeah. And
Like,
there's
yeah.
independently and there's together.
yeah, I'm probably gonna keep coming back to this, but like add a third kid onto that, and it's just like, and then a fourth, and then a fifth, and you have 5 different like micro off kilter schedules with the parents' schedules. I couldn't.
And like, I feel like
I mean,
if
you
you're
have
doing
to,
this,
but-
I don't know how like you are some
Yeah.
superhuman, but like, I feel like even just like as a full-time stay-at-home parent, I have such a hard time juggling just the 2 of them. I could not imagine adding a third. Just I couldn't. I couldn't. And some people have three kids and that's awesome. Good. Like
Yeah.
there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Some people have more kids than you do you.
Yeah.
Personally,
Yeah. Because
I
at
think
some
I would
point you
break.
have to reach capacity. Like we don't just have infinite time. And so even if you had infinite energy, you can only give so much to each child. Like I feel like you'd either compromise your parenting standards or get more strict to like focus their ability to shine outside of their box. You know what I mean? Because like you like literally just don't have the capacity to do that. Either do whatever you want. I can't be there for you right now, so figure it out.
That's like
Like
a
more and
really hard
more.
thing to do
Yeah.
for me, like as a parent, as the stay-at-home parent. It's like heartbreaking for me to like tell Ollie like, well, I can't help you right now
Yeah. When they want it.
when they want it.
But then
Like,
that's what I'm saying. Eventually, if you had like 5 kids that you had to say that to every day, like you'd have to go like emotionally numb, mentally survive that mental break
I
status,
just,
right? Or like you severely sacrifice your own wellness, and not like we really do that much for ourselves as it is. Like it's like, okay, I guess we're eating takeout literally every day so that I don't have to worry about cooking or cleaning.
yeah, because like, like when would you even have time?
Yeah.
And
And as
that's
they get
another
older, you
thing
can
that takes
incorporate
away from
them,
like
but
your kids' time
yeah.
with you. They're already feeling like maybe they're not getting enough with you,
Hmm.
and you add cooking, and then it's
Yeah.
like, you know.
Yeah, and that's like, oh, the midday is like semi-controllable and can look similar to before we had kids, but like the beginning of the day and the end of the day are just so much different. And I feel like the end of the day is so much more important than anything. What you do midday kind of affects to some extent, affects your child's mood and behavior towards the end of the day, like how much sugar you might have given them or like how much you fed them or how overwhelmed they felt with whatever they were doing that day. But like ultimately, I feel like every minute counts. Like the closer and closer you get to bedtime, it just like especially for a kid that doesn't have a flexible sleep schedule, and then you add in a crying baby on top of that they don't have a schedule yet. It's just not their MO yet to have a schedule when they're that young because it's just constant growing and changing until they hit like Ollie was like a year and a half, between a year and a
Maybe
half to
Kai will be
2 years.
better. I really do feel like Kai's my sleeper. Like I sleep
Yeah.
so much better with Kai than I ever did with Ollie. Just because like Kai goes to sleep easier than Ollie
Hmm.
did. Even though he
Yeah.
might wake up a couple of more times at night. Well, actually not really, because
Yeah, Ollie
Ollie
still
woke
woke
up
up a lot
a lot, and actually it would take a long hours. I'm talking hours to get him back to sleep at
until
night.
after a year.
But Kai,
Yeah.
like yesterday, it was an hour, but that's like not normally the norm, especially if we have everything ready and there's not a big commotion. Like that was our fault for miscommunicating. But like Kai, he's normally like, oh yeah, I'm so tired, and then he'll
Yeah.
pass out again, like super easily.
Yeah, it would like be a whole new start with Ollie.
I bounced Ollie on the ball because Ollie would only go to sleep bouncing, and I obviously I couldn't stand for hours. So Jesse's friend suggested that we use a medicine ball, and that was the biggest mistake of my life because Ollie loved it, but it didn't help him sleep better, like
And
or
then
easier.
there was no other option. It's like
Um,
imagine like if bouncing him was the only way to get him to sleep, and like not the only way, but it took like 2 to 3 hours
of
on like
bouncing him.
on average before he would be asleep enough to put him down and have him kind of be out for a few hours and sometimes all night, like 3, 4, 5 hours at a time. And then when he'd wake up, you'd have to bounce him again for like 15 or so minutes, like in the middle of the night. So there was multiple times in that year period where we were like, well, it can't be any worse than just like holding him and having him fall asleep, or like see if he'll just go to sleep in the bed with us next to him. No, no. Like if you just lay him there, he's up forever. And if you just hold him, it's like 4, 5, 6 hours. And so it's like what are the options? And we tried the whole like, well, eventually if they're just there, they'll fall asleep. Like, no, he'd be up until 7 or 8 in the morning, and we'd try it for like a 2 day stint, right? It would be like we'd wake up and he'd still just be like there fighting it, and then we'd be like maybe just one more day, and like he'd take like a 1 hour nap, and then he'd be good to go until like the next 7 or 8 a.m. And it's just like, we can't not have him sleep a third day in a row. Like, that's not, one day isn't healthy. 2 days definitely isn't healthy when you're like at that stage of development. It's like, so like, how much more could we have tried to force him to sleep than we did? It had to be the ball. And that's just how he was. I don't wish that on anybody, not the child or the parents.
And like, there came a moment, I remember the moment that he was finally okay sleeping. And I think it was such a change, which is what facilitated that easy transition, because it was like coronavirus had just become a thing. Like, it was March of 2020-ish. I was about to start my second semester, or my second to last semester at university. And Jesse was still, like, they had just bought their clinic, and he couldn't go just yet, but he was going to meet us there or something.
Where?
At my parents' house, because we were going to do the lockdown at my parents' house.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, I mean, I have to be there for when my school starts, because if he's working full time, like, and I have full time classes, I need help.
Yeah.
With Ollie, and I was pregnant, and we went down to my parents' house, and it was just me and Ollie, and obviously I was pregnant, but it was just me and Ollie. And I remember that night, I just like got in bed with him, and he was like probably waiting for the ball, but I couldn't, like, I was pregnant, like I couldn't do the ball, and I just got in with him, and I was like, this is how we're gonna fall asleep today, buddy, because I can't bounce you on the ball right now. And lo and behold, he did. And that was like the last time that we ever had to use the ball.
Yeah.
It was like a really, from one to the next day, like from night.
Yeah.
Is it morning to night transition? Is that?
Yeah. Yeah. And he did, like, he doesn't do transitions well. He just goes from like A to Z. Like, it's this and then it's that. And it's like you have to reach the breaking point before it tips over. I don't think Kai's going to be like that.
No.
Excuse me. I think
don't.
Kai's definitely,
He's going to need the transition time. Kai's going to need the transition
like, for
time.
his emotional health. Like, Ollie, what, like we said last episode, he doesn't display his emotions, but he's very emotionally strong and intelligent. Like, he can convey them if he wants to, and like he's able to withstand things that are scary or sad or like difficult. Like, they don't shake him emotionally. For a lot of things, it's not like he's trying to hold it in. It's just he has a tolerance for pain. He has a tolerance for difficult situations. That, I don't know, he must have just been born with it. But yeah, I think Kai is definitely feels those changes a lot more than Ollie does.
Like, Ollie, when he was little, if you said something to him meanly, or like, oh, just go to sleep, he would just cry at the same level, or just be like mad at the same level, or just like, he would just be like, and but Kai,
He would
he's
just
like,
keep doing his thing.
Kai's like, excuse me, did you just say that to me? And then his crying intensifies.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he has feelings, and he is sad at you. He is sad at you.
Yeah. Yeah. Ollie never had those feelings.
This is not at all about pre.
Well, yeah. No, I was just gonna ask you though, like, kind of getting back to that, just because I was curious. What do you miss the most about being like pre-parenthood?
I think a lot of people might agree with me when I say this, but the freedom of being my own person, of doing what I want when I want, without care.
Yeah.
With reckless abandon.
Yeah.
Like, that freedom was so sweet, and I didn't even know it. And maybe like I did know it, but it's like you can't, like,
You don't know what you
I would
got
have
till it's
lived
gone.
it up more. I would have lived it up more if I had known. I would have lived, and I had a pretty wild 20s, and I still would have lived it up more if I had known.
Yeah.
And one day, hopefully, not like hopefully, but like,
Well,
one day we will be empty nesters, because hopefully we will have done a good job at raising our kids. We will be empty nesters, but we will always, and we might like travel the world and live abroad and do whatever we want,
Who knows?
Who knows? But
Who knows?
but like, our kids will always be like in our minds. That's not something that we could ever like, whatever we want to do. Like, before we had kids, I feel like all it would have taken would have been a slightly bigger nudge and we would have up and moved somewhere abroad
Mm-hmm.
without care, like without thought. Like, yeah, we'd miss our parents, but like,
Yeah.
right? But now that we have kids, it's like not that simple to just up and
True.
move abroad. We can't do that anymore without like thinking. Like, we can't just move to like some other country and rent like an okay apartment, you know, if it's okay. No, like it has to be like our level of okay would have been completely different back then versus what we
Yeah.
think of now.
Yeah.
Like it's like a different different considerations need to be taken. It can't just be some like hole in the wall. Like we have to think of like even when we were buying houses,
Yeah,
even when we were
yeah.
buying this house, it was like let's make sure that it's in a safer neighborhood. Let's
Mm-hmm.
you know find some
Yeah.
place. Blah 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 blah
Yeah,
blah.
yeah, like it's like a risk tolerance thing. And like you can as a parent maintain the same level of risk tolerance. Like that's not a choice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But for us, I felt like that yeah, it lowered our risk tolerance a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
For their sake, not necessarily for our sake. But I mean even then actually kind of for our sake too. Like I probably with like COVID and everything, I probably would have been like if I get it, I get it, and if I die, I die. Like I'm going to do everything I can to be healthy. Like with kids, like I literally got the shot so that there was a less likelihood of me not being here for my children. You know what I mean? It had nothing to do with me being scared about getting it or like me being worried that I'd end up in the hospital. It's not even about me being worried that I would transfer it to them because like
It doesn't make you any less transferable.
yeah. Yeah.
Contagious.
Well, and even then, like, I'm not really afraid of them getting it. I feel like they would both stay either asymptomatic or relatively healthy and not
Well,
get
I
any of
can
the
only hope. But
yeah
that's not
yeah like knock on wood. Like,
even like
obviously we
me and
don't
him,
want
we
them
have
to
like different like
risk-
thoughts about that.
Well, and I've always been more risk tolerant than you have.
That's true.
Anyways,
And I'm not like a helicopter mom, but I'm definitely like not about to let my kid try absolutely everything his little heart desires. It's so funny. So we had friends. We we had friends come over on Friday, and one of them has a little girl who's Ollie's age, and Ollie was being his normal self. I didn't even think anything of it. And all of a sudden he's like something something and he's like on top of the trash can and my friend goes, "I would never have even thought to baby proof that." Because her daughter is so chill. Same
basically.
age, but super like chill, super just doing her, you know, like her. And she was like, I never would have thought. And I like, and she like kind of was like, oh my God. Right. And I was just like, he's done that. I don't even know how many times. And there's no way I can baby proof not getting on top of the trash can. So
yeah, or like pulling a chair over to the counter when you're like trying to sleep, Kai.
yeah, he was like underneath the table and like poking his head out like between the crib and the table. She was like, maybe if I push the crib there to like block his view of that
He'll
whole
just
like,
be like, like I'll go somewhere else.
no, he pushed his head like and moved the crib out of the way. Like it's just a day in our life of the insane level of energy that Ollie is. He is so high maintenance. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing or a good thing. I'm just saying like he's a beautiful human.
That's
like
why
he's a beautiful human, but
it's one of those things where like in order like I feel like in order for him to like just because of who he is, in order for him to grow up feeling like secure and like a confident human being with not a lot of like kind of like scars and baggage. Like obviously a lot of other things can happen, but for us as the parents, like we have to pour as much of as he's asking for it, as much as we can give to make sure that he remains
just
like
as
himself.
curious, just as inquisitive,
and not
feels afraid and bogged down by like
because there's a difference between like helping a child become independent and helping a child like learn who they are and grow and use their patience and use their listening ears and develop mature skills as a human. There's a difference between that, like making choices that your child will like remember and potentially take to heart as like they have to change. Oh, like every single day my parents don't have enough time and energy for me, so I have to care less. Because it's not like he can like he has these natural innate feelings and desires. I guess the verbiage I'm using, it might sound like I'm babying or spoiling him, but I'm not saying like he has these urges and desires and these wants that are all like love based, and it's hard to meet those. But if I feel like if I don't meet those, he's gonna have to turn that down because over time it's like, oh, like every single day they don't have enough time for me, and so who I am is too much, or like I have to turn down who I am. And like as soon as that happens, like you can't undo that. You can't just be like, oh no, 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 like now we have enough time for you.
It was too late.
Yeah, it's too, like at that point it's too late, and they're already a different person, kind of like in Inside Out, like if you've seen that movie, where like her, like
Possible spoilers. Possible spoilers.
that's true, possible spoilers. It's, yeah. Is it too many years late?
I don't know. Oh,
Well, like let's just
oh.
say that in your brain you have fundamental pieces of you
Which is
that,
actually like a legit
yeah,
psychological
that
theory principle
once they've
thing.
crumbled by a new idea or feeling or perception, they can never come back the same. Like you can rebuild new fundamental pillars of who you are in
Which
your
can be
brain.
equally as
Yeah.
good. It's not
Yeah.
like a bad, like he's like, I get what you're saying. You're saying you just want to continue to keep him a child at heart for as long as you
Yeah.
possibly can,
Yeah.
because inevitably he will grow up, but
That's
he's only
true.
two and like almost three.
And he's already so like responsible and emotionally like I said, intelligent, but also like when I'm mad, like I'm mad and I don't know what to do with this. Like I know what I'm feeling, I just don't know what to do with it. And I don't want to do things that nurture those tendencies. Not like he will grow up with whatever level he has of that, but I don't want to, like if I'm thinking about it and I know it's a moment that will cause him to go to that place, like then I want to make choices that lean him more towards the positive attributes of the situation that he's trying to create. If that makes sense. I don't know.
Well, yeah, because what you put your attention to is how they're going to react. Just like at first when he was reacting, so like he was acting out a lot, and it was because he'd come to realize that, especially because we had a newborn that we were sleep deprived and basically on
Yeah.
survival mode, that like if he acted out, that's when we would pay attention to him. So he began to learn that acting out gets attention. Like for a while, we've been trying to reprogram that, like don't pay attention to that and pay attention to when he is wanting love and getting wanting attention and asking for attention in a positive way. So even though it's like really tiring, like that's what we want to nurture in him.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily think that that's spoiling him, like, at
Yeah,
all.
and it's a little bit hard because I do feel like now sometimes he's using it as a card sometimes rather than as a genuine emotion. Like when we're dancing and he knows this time of day, every single day, mom and dad exercise together. We like normally before that we've played with you a lot. And then like after this, we're eating dinner together and we're either taking a bath or playing more and going to bed. And it's like he has to. We've been doing it every single day for like 4, 5, 6 weeks. He knows that that's the pattern. It's like on the one hand you could think like it's still not enough for him. His bucket's not full, but at the same time it's like, dude, we've been playing with you for 2 hours. We need 30 minutes to exercise, and you can exercise with us and you can choose to do the things that we want to do. But he'll say things like, I miss you and I'm sad, or like I'm really mad that you're doing this, and like
But I think that he does that because we did barely just get out of survival mode. I mean, some days we
maybe,
still
yeah.
are still in survival mode. So it's like up in the air.
Yeah.
It's up in the air. And even though he is getting his bucket filled on a daily basis, like there's still that lingering like, oh, they're not paying attention to
True.
me, and it's because they don't have time for me. They're too busy.
Yeah.
And so he acts out to get that. And we just have to continue doing what we have been doing, which is like not getting mad that he's asking for it, but at the same time reinforcing that, hey, this is our schedule right now. And just like yesterday. And we usually like, we're always
Yeah.
like, okay, we have like 3 songs left. We do with Zumba and Just Dance. We'll say like, we just have 4 more songs left. And then 3 more songs, and then he has started to be like, oh, you only have 2 songs left, and then like by the time it's done, like we're always like, you did it, you did
like we
it,
really
you got to
champion
it, like we really
his
championed it,
patience.
like, oh man, like I'm so proud you like did it. What do we say to him? You handled it, or something like that. It's so exciting, yay! And now we can play, or whatever we're gonna do, and we do. We sit down and we play with him for a good minute. Or a good long, time before, Jesse gets up to make us dinner, and I start taking care of Kai, so it's just getting used to like that new,
The new
that
pattern.
that's the norm, not what it
Yeah.
was before.
I wonder how long that will take for him.
I don't know. He doesn't
Yeah.
do transitions
Hmm.
like it just one day it will just be probably. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know.
Like we said earlier.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I wonder, like, for Ollie, but also just like in general, like psychology for the average kid, if there's research on this, like, let's say hypothetically, we're down here in this area and I'm working on that computer and he's over here like playing and he's like, Papa, play with me, Papa, play with me, Papa, play with me. And I'm like, I'm doing this work thing, I'm doing this work thing, I'm doing this work thing. Like, how many days, how many weeks, how many months, how many years of that does it take to like an average child mentally and emotionally?
Well,
You know what I mean?
like I think that as long as there's balance, it doesn't hurt them
Mm-hmm.
because they do have to learn about schedules. They're going to be adults.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's important for them to see that. And I don't,
But yeah, at what age too? Like when they have the ability to be independent, which is different for every kid, or is it like a certain age of development mentally and emotionally? I'm not saying you have all the answers. I'm just like asking questions until they start taking that and it starts like they take that on in a negative way.
but that's what I'm saying. Like, I think that especially because we have been
Oh
making,
yeah, I was saying hypothetically, not like that's my life.
it probably depends on the age of the child, what happens outside of those times. There's a lot of
Yeah.
factors. What do you miss most about pre-children?
Yeah, we got really far off that topic, didn't we? The specific thing that I miss is the ability to have space when I need it. I don't want freedom all the time, and I don't really miss having that much freedom. But if I want to go off and meditate or take just a few minutes because I'm feeling like stressed or overwhelmed with work, like I just can't. And sometimes as like not a single, but like with you or by myself without kids, adult, it'd be like if I wanted to watch like 3 hours of like Pokemon, like the TV show, to like regain a little nostalgia and then just be completely nulled out. Like I could. I didn't do that very often, stuff like that. But there's like things that you as a individual do to recharge yourself. And a lot of those things require time that you just don't have during the time that you need it. Like, and I feel like I've always needed more of that than you, even before
True.
kids. Like, it's like I would want often to like drive up to Mount Baker and just be there, be on the mountain, in the car or out, just like hanging out, doing nothing in wilderness, not even going on a long hike or anything. I mean, unless you live on a mountain or like you live in that natural space, like driving to nature is a commute. Even if it's 10 minutes or 15 minutes, like that's still too much time because that's another 30 minutes added on to what. So then it's like you're like you get there or like you go to the places that center you, but while you're there, you're thinking about how little time you have there. It's so hard to, for me, even if I were to say, okay, I miss this like space independence. Well, like, let me find a way to create it. Even if I created it, I would then also, like, I also have to find a way to get past the mental barrier of, oh, I'm on a schedule right now. This isn't free, independent space time. It's like borrowed and rented every minute. That's
From our
self-care.
like very high maintenance bosses.
Yeah. Yeah. Every minute of your life is either borrowed or rented in time. Choose wisely.
And they're expensive. Time is
Expensive.
expensive from them.
So I think
right
that's
now,
what
like
I
at
miss
this
the
stage
most.
that we're at. Yeah.
I wouldn't go back to multiple out like binge hour gaming or movie or
Oh
like
my gosh, I remember
whatever's.
the first video game binge that we ever did was Skyrim. I mean, we were young. We were allowed, okay?
We were young, but we were also like semi-depressed at the
That's true.
location we were
Yeah.
at. Together.
And then the next one we did was Terraria.
Oh,
Oh, I
Terraria.
love
So
Terraria.
good.
And then the very last one that we did actually
Stardew
happened
Valley.
right when we
When we had Ollie.
had Ollie, and I remember we started playing it right before we had Ollie, or maybe we started it actually after we brought Ollie home, and he slept in between us, and we would put like a barrier because we had
The projector was like
put a projector.
we had like a bed frame and the projector was right behind Ollie's head,
yeah,
projecting onto the wall
yeah,
in our bedroom. So we'd be like
in bed. like hours.
For some reason, I was thinking it'd be easier with Kai, but just if we tried to do that right now, Ollie would wake up easily. Obviously,
And then he now is too like, he would be like, it's time for a wake. It's not dark anymore.
yeah,
That's his favorite thing to say, because we would say it's still too dark outside. Like we can't, we have to stay in bed. It's too dark outside. So now when he
Yeah.
wakes up, he says, is it dark outside? Is it still dark outside? Can we go out?
So, yeah, pre versus post stuff. So that's what you missed the most. I think in this one and the last one, we talked a lot about the increase in like schedule and incrementations and everything that matter have made us better people in terms of like productivity and stuff. But what else other than time and productivity do you feel like we're better because we're parents?
I think that we're better people because we're parents. And I, specifically for us, I'm not saying that everybody is a crappy person and then only when you become parents, you magically become like a better person. I'm not saying that at all. Well, at least me. And I think you're, well, you asked me. I'm not talking about you. Well, I became a better person. I don't know. Okay. Maybe you didn't. I don't,
a good person.
I don't know. But like personally, just for me, like if I did something, like that's on me. It's just on me. Like it literally, like if
Yeah.
I reacted a certain way to something, it's just on me. Like that's it. It's how I reacted. And I don't have to think anything about it. I didn't have to think anything of it if I didn't want to. But now that we have the kids, like who do I want them to be? Because as a parent, you get to have a say in that. Obviously, I'm not saying I'm going to make them who I want them to be, but we are their role models. We are essentially helping them create their building blocks that they will have for the rest of their life, like their lifelong building blocks of
Yeah.
their personality, of the way they react when they're angry or sad or mad, or all of that, the way they see relationships, the way they see themselves. Like we are their role models for that. They look to us to get a handle of the world, and like if there's like a certain situation that they have never encountered, children will normally look to their parents to see how they react, or like a teacher or whatever, how they react. And from that reaction, they can gauge what their reaction should be. And that's how they learn. Having Ollie and then Kai, for me, has made me, I think, a better person. I really have to think every day, and I'm not perfect. I'm not like saying that I'm perfect at all. Like I legit have screamed at them before. Am I proud of it? Of course I'm not proud of it. Like I'm not here to say like I screamed at my kids and I'm proud. No, like no. I'm just saying nobody's perfect, and obviously like I've messed up and I've like yelled at them. At both of them already, and at Kai, and okay, I'm not ashamed to admit it. I've gone off the deep end. It's hard. Raising kids is hard, especially kids that can't reason like Kai can't. Yeah, Ollie can start to reason a little bit, but I don't do it often, because those moments like really make me reevaluate myself and be like, I don't want to react that way again, because at the end of the day, the kids and myself, we're learning together. We're learning how to live together, and it's not their fault, and it's not my fault. I'm not faulting anyone. I'm just saying we have to learn together, and I can do better. I know I can do better. I can react better when I'm angry. I can react better when I'm emotional, and that's obviously something that I want them to see. I want them to see that you don't have to react angrily all the time, or that there are different ways to react and to be. And so for me, like that's something. That's my answer.
I say I kind of agree with your answer. I can't think of anything above and beyond what we've already talked about and that, but like to add to yours, I think even more than me becoming a better person from perceiving just being a father to them and having to like not having to be that role model because it's a choice, but like to feeling like everything I do matters more, not because of me, but because of them. That made me a better person. But above and beyond that, I also feel like I empathize better with most people in the world. Like if I see somebody that I don't like agree with the way that they're being, or like how they're acting, or like their specific beliefs and how they're portraying those to other people, or I mean maybe they're acting a certain way towards others, like I just in my mind I can't help but think that person is somebody's daughter or son. Somebody cares about them too, and they're doing this because maybe they didn't have a mother or a father like I'm trying to be. I don't give excuses for people, but instead of judging what they're doing, instead of reacting to their reactions, I feel like what I do is I just look at people and say like, what's behind that? What's behind that? Because the other day when the homeless guy walked up to me and like there's a big situation, maybe I don't think
They don't know.
I couldn't help but
Well, you have to tell them the
Ugh,
story. Like,
I
you just have to, you brought it up, you have to tell them now. They're going to be very
okay.
curious.
I was at work and I was the only one there in the back alley on a weekend. Back alley makes it sound like a thing, but it's like a commute between like an area where there's a lot of homeless people and like a neighborhood, and it's like a back part of that. It's not like nobody like drives there just because like it's not like a through road or anything. This guy walks up to me with his hand in his pocket and is like, "Hey, where are you going?" I'm just going home to my family. I just finished work. Like I just locked up behind me. My car wasn't unlocked yet. And he was like, "Can I get a ride to like the nearest exit?" And in my mind I was like, if I say no, like instead of like I could go somewhere, I could say no, and if there's an altercation and he has a weapon, there's nothing I can do about it and no one would even know for at the very least hours. You know what I mean? Like you would eventually come looking for me. Ultimately I decided the best thing I could do was get to a more public place. And then if anything happened, like it was like a public, like there was support, like a community network ish. And so I was able to do that and neutralize the situation. And it was like kind of stressful. And he was definitely like on some drugs that he dropped out of his pocket and everything. I feel like when I was like handling that situation and the communication with him, I was actually treating him like a child in a way that was having a tantrum, or a child that was not able to logically understand the situation that was happening. The way I was explaining things and the way I was talking to him was, I wasn't doing it in like a condescending, "you're my child" way, but like asking questions and being like, "Wow, that's crazy. How did that feel?" Questions that I would ask in a slightly mature way, but like questions that I would ask to Ollie when he's going through those, like trying to figure out his emotions, because like this person obviously like wasn't stable. For me, I guess that's just one example of before having kids, I wouldn't even have had that reference to make that decision, and I might have made a different choice that would have been maybe very judgmental and rude. But like he was like at one point, like he ended up getting in my face and cussing at me, and I was like, "Dude, like I bought you a coffee, I offered to like have you come in and buy some groceries with me to put in your bag. I'm just trying to spread love and positivity." And I probably wouldn't have been able to like have the reference of frame of mind to like keep that composure had I not had to deal with like little tiny terrorists every day. If that makes
bullies,
sense.
little tiny bullies every
Yeah,
day.
right.
Like for me too, having kids like helped me overcome a lot of my like insecurities that I faced, that I was bullied in elementary school, and it had a very like huge effect on my, like on just who I am as a person and like what I need from
Mm-hmm.
people. Like I care a lot about what people think, and not like, it's not like I want to care, like I just do because of the things that happened
Yeah.
to me and the way
Sorry
that
to
like,
get that every time.
and the way that they affected me, and it's something that I've been trying to like get over. But having kids for me was like, who cares? Honestly, the only people that I truly want to be,
Yeah.
that I want to show. So like I have these insecurities and I don't want my children to grow up having these insecurities, so I have to model myself as if I don't have those insecurities, but also like I don't care as much anymore anyway, because I'm just doing what I need to do to be
Yeah.
the best role model that I can be for my kids. And so who cares if nobody likes
Well, I
me,
think it
you
like
know?
I think it'll be actually really cool when Ollie and Kai are a little bit older and we can start to display some of our insecurities
Mm-hmm.
and like logically have a conversation and explain them like, "Hey,
Yeah.
I feel these things and I'm not perfect and I don't want you to ever think I'm perfect." Like, and we're not trying to hide it, but like as they're developing as observers of like how to act without a frame of reference for anything they're seeing, it's a lot harder to like be like, "Oh yeah, let me just be like really mad at this person right now," or let me
Yeah.
just like not give an F. Whereas I feel like it's gonna be, I don't care how much more time I have to spend, if my child can logically understand an emotional thing that's happening, like there is no more important time or task for me than to sit down with them and be like, "Let's talk about this. Like,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
questions do you have?" I will answer everything completely raw, and as long as we can find a way to make you understand that
Mm-hmm.
in a way where you can then have at least like a healthy frame of reference, because like there's like support back there. Like I
Mm-hmm.
cannot wait for the Y phase that accompanies also like wanting to make those like synapses, like logical conclusions.
I like that. I like
Sweet.
that a lot.
Well, thanks for that. For the parents
Thanks for
episode
coming to our
3.
podcast.
Wah, 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 wah.